this is where you will end up, with your family and friends crying as you're led out of the courtroom to serve the rest of your life in prison.
Imagine a world where violence and crime reign supreme, where notorious gang members have committed heinous acts with impunity. But now, their world is about to change dramatically. These individuals, who once lived on the edge of the law, are now facing the grim prospect of a life sentence in prison. How do they react to this sudden twist of fate? Do they show remorse for their actions, or do they remain unrepentant? In this exploration, we dive into the minds of these criminal masterminds and witness their responses to a life behind bars. Lee Rios. In the shadowed corridors of Massachusetts' criminal justice system, the name Lee Rios became synonymous with a chilling lack of remorse.
Rios was found guilty of first-degree murder last Friday for the murder of Kenneth Lopez.
His victim, the young and promising 18-year-old Kenneth Lopez, fell victim to Rios's callous violence. The courtroom became a solemn arena where the gravity of Rios's crime hung heavy in the air. He had fired multiple shots, each one a deadly proclamation, and tragically, one found its mark, striking Lopez in the head and ending his young life. But what was even more unsettling than the crime itself was Rios's reaction during the trial. As the proceedings unfolded, Rios exhibited no remorse, no trace of guilt, and no empathy for the life he had taken. He remained stoic, an embodiment of the unrepentant criminal, unswayed by the severity of his actions. His gang members too shared in this heartless display, standing in stark contrast to the grief-stricken family of Kenneth Lopez. The verdict was clear and unforgiving: life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Carpio brothers. In the annals of criminal history, the Carpio brothers, Michael and Anthony, etched a harrowing chapter. These members of the Rockwood Street Gang orchestrated a brutal attack that unfolded like a family's worst nightmare. Their victim, the promising 18-year-old Kevin Oriana, faced a horrific ordeal as he was subjected to multiple stab wounds. The Carpio brothers, devoid of mercy or restraint, unleashed a wave of violence that left Kevin fighting for his life. It was a nightmare that no family should ever have to endure.
As a parent, we plan to dance at their wedding, celebrate a promotion, look forward to possible grandchildren. The last thought we would ever have is that we will have to plan their funeral.
But what set this tragedy apart was the startling absence of remorse displayed by the Carpio brothers. As they received their sentences, their faces remained devoid of emotion, unmoved by the enormity of their actions. In stark contrast to the anguish of Kevin's family, the Carpio brothers' stoicism served as a chilling reminder of the darkness that had gripped their hearts. Justice was served in the form of sentences handed down by the court. However, the scars left by the Carpio brothers' actions would forever mar the lives of those touched by this family's nightmare. George Gerald Thomas. In the dark and treacherous world of South Africa's criminal underground, one name towered above the rest, striking fear into the hearts of all who encountered it: George Gerald Thomas. This notorious gang leader's notoriety was built on a foundation of violence and terror, as he faced a staggering list of over 50 charges, a catalogue of criminality that included the chilling count of 7 murders. Thomas's path to infamy was paved with unlawful possession of firearms, racketeering, and a ruthless disregard for the law. But it was the sheer brutality of his murders that sent shockwaves through the nation. One by one, Thomas orchestrated the deaths of 7 individuals, leaving a trail of devastation in his wake. His victims were not spared, and their lives were tragically cut short by his malevolent actions. Yet, as he faced the consequences of his heinous crimes in court, Thomas exhibited no remorse.
Today, I'm gonna be brutally honest. I'm not saying I regret it but what I know for a fact, if I could have changed some things, I wouldn't be here where I'm now.
His demeanor remained chillingly devoid of any hint of regret or empathy. As the judge's gavel resounded in the courtroom, the weight of his malevolent deeds came crashing down. George Gerald Thomas was sentenced to life imprisonment for each of the 7 murders he had been charged with, an outcome that underscored the unrelenting nature of his criminal pursuits. Lisandro Posada Vasquez. In the chilling tale of Lisandro Posada Vasquez and his cohorts in the MS-13 gang, brutality and ruthlessness took center stage. Their actions left a community horrified, and their victim, 17-year-old Raymond Wood, fell prey to their heartless cruelty.
There's no belief that Mr. Wood had any idea of the serious nature of the individuals he was dealing with.
What's equally disturbing is the complete absence of remorse displayed by Vasquez during his trial. Raymond Wood's fate was sealed when he was lured by Vasquez and his fellow gang members. Once in their clutches, he became the unfortunate target of their unrelenting violence. Strangled, stabbed multiple times, and even subjected to the horrifying act of having his right hand severed, Raymond's final moments were a nightmare beyond comprehension. One might expect that the magnitude of their brutality would weigh heavily on their conscience, but remorse was conspicuously absent. Throughout the trial, Vasquez and his gang showed no signs of guilt, regret, or empathy for the pain and suffering they had inflicted upon an innocent life. As the courtroom drama unfolded, it became abundantly clear that Vasquez and his fellow gang members would have to face the consequences of their monstrous actions. Justice demanded a severe penalty, and it was delivered. Vasquez received a life sentence for his role in the gruesome crime that had shaken the community to its core. However, what sent shivers down the spines of those present was the complete lack of emotion displayed by Vasquez during the sentencing. There were no apologies, no remorseful glances, and no acknowledgement of the enormity of their deeds. Their impassive demeanor served as a haunting reminder of individuals so deeply entrenched in a world of violence that they seemed untouched by the horror they had unleashed. Abel Gallegos. In the harrowing tale of Abel Gallegos and his gang members, revenge and brutality were the order of the day. Their actions left a community traumatized, and their victim, Simone Duran, paid the ultimate price for crossing their path. But what is equally chilling is the absence of remorse that permeated the courtroom during their trial. Simone Duran unwittingly found herself entangled in a web of vengeance when she identified a suspect in a police lineup. Little did she know that this simple act would set in motion a chain of events leading to her abduction and murder. Gallegos and his gang didn't stop at ending her life. They subjected her to unimaginable violence, and to add to the horror, they set her lifeless body ablaze. The brutality of their actions should have weighed heavily on their conscience, but remorse seemed to be a foreign concept to them. In the face of the heinous crime they committed, there was no sign of guilt or repentance. Their hearts remained cold and unyielding, impervious to the suffering they had inflicted.
This is where you will end up, with your family and friends crying as you're let out of the courtroom to serve the rest of your life in prison.
Justice demanded a severe punishment, and it was delivered, a life sentence without the possibility of parole. The courtroom, filled with the echoes of Simone Duran's torment, left no room for doubt about the severity of their crimes. The lack of regret and attitude displayed by these gang leaders throughout their court appearances gives us a terrifying glimpse into the thoughts of people who have done immense harm to their communities. As a result of their cruel deeds, they now have to face the sobering prospect of spending the remainder of their lives behind bars.